And welcome to Kelly's Bar for another edition of Yards After Contact. I'm Gary Houston alongside Ryan Kelly of Kelly's Bar. Ryan, week 9 is in the books, the high school season, a game that we kind of featured and talked about last week. And you were there, Urson Mooney game. Your thoughts? I mean, Cardinals came out on top.
Yeah.
Tough loss. What were your thinking? How did you feel about the game?
Well, I guess it was sloppy to say the absolute least, but
Both ways.
Yeah, both ways. Like I said, you were there, so you could see it. But I mean, for those of you who weren't there, it was very sloppy. But it's one of those things where you do throw the records out because I thought Mooney was was supposed to be impressive coming in, and I thought Ursuline. I personally thought Ursuline controlled the line of scrimmage, even though I'm not happy that we lost, but you're happy for kids like that. For your legacy, because it's something you're gonna talk about the rest of your life.
Well, you got to be happy for Dakota Hobbs and what he did in that game.
Yeah, and you know what? If his leg doesn't give out, they score early right there, and it's a whole different game. I think, a kid like Jeff Marks, he's just played his butt off the whole year with that torn plantar fascia. It's it was amazing to watch those guys that. Going into the game, I wasn't sure I was going to play out. I knew that they were down, but they played hard, man.
Was it not Dakota who caught the receiver?
Yeah,
on the
that's
big
right. Yeah,
play for Mooney as well.
Yeah.
Not only did he make the big play to set up the touchdown, right?
Yeah, and
he ended up making the
for
tackle.
Ursuline, it kind
the
of
receiver who
it
made
gets
the crazy
to be
play at the end of the game.
It gets to be a little bit unfortunate that they had two safeties out, and they're thin there anyways, so they couldn't even go into like a prevent defense at that moment. So I mean, if you're in a nickel or prevent defense, you have the opportunity to maybe make that little tackle. Maybe it's a 12-yard gain, and it's a whole different ball game. That's what I mean, and it's just.
How did you feel
I
about
think
the
they had,
game at that point?
Well, I was, to be honest
with
you.
Did you think it was over?
Yes, because I didn't think. I think that Antonio Page, he's a tough kid. He's a good athlete, but I didn't see Mooney being able to drive the field, throwing the ball in that time, and then 6 mixed tackles later, and then I talked to Coach Kemp that week, and man, he was miserable. I think Denny Lieber said on the wrap-up show, I hope make sure we keep Coach Kemp away from any bridges this week.
I heard that.
Yeah, and I talked to him. He told me they sent a perfect blitz into that run play, the first play, and they don't get the stunt right, and next thing you know, it took like every little anything that could go wrong did on that last drive.
Did Mooney impress you for their chances going forward? They got to play Fitch this week.
Honestly, no.
Okay.
And I was.
Yeah, if you saw the game.
And here's me. I'm talking up Mooney to everybody.
Was it just that good of a defensive game?
Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Ursuline because I thought they played great up front. I thought they played hard, but I just had my expectations for Mooney were so much higher going into that game. I'll be honest with you. I thought they're going to run through that region and get through Woodridge, but man, I think we're going to talk about it here in a second. They better get ready for Hubbard. They better get ready for Struthers. That teams are going to stop the run, and it's not going to be no cakewalk.
And if they don't have that big play, man, who knows?
Yeah,
what happens.
Absolutely.
But they'll advance. They're going to play Fitch. Whether potentially, as you were looking at the schedule, they could play Hubbard in round 1.
Yeah.
We were thinking maybe Struthers last week, 4 and 5 teams. But if Mooney wins, they're going to get a lot of points from Fitch, and Hubbard's plays East, they won't get a lot of help. They'll be maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Could be a 2-7 matchup, Hubbard and
that's how that Drew Pastor has it projected out. Maybe a 2-7 and maybe a 4-5 with Mooney and Struthers. But it's good to see all these local teams. It's good to see that Week 10 matters because there's a lot of teams, as we were talking before the show, there's a lot of teams that are still in it that you wouldn't think. I mean, Western Reserve has an outside shot. Columbiana has an outside shot. Brookfield's an outside shot, and then like Springfield's playing for a home game. Howland's playing for a home game. So there's a lot of things at stake here.
Struthers and Lakeview should be another good game.
Yeah.
Struthers doesn't need to win. Lakeview desperately does need to win to get in.
Yeah.
Should be a good ball game.
Yeah, I mean it's
at Struthers too. So.
Yeah, so I think Struthers got to make sure they get a good win, stay healthy, get ready, stay rolling. So we'll see.
It'd be neat to see all 4 of those teams again. Lakeview would have to beat Struthers.
Listen, I'd love it for as many teams as possible. And,
South Range.
I was hoping, I was pulling for Warren JFK to, they go
got beat.
undefeated. They may win an AP title, and they get beat. I think were they looking ahead to
St. Thomas
Aquinas and 10? I know St. Joe's has got a ton of athletes,
Yeah.
so
Good team.
yeah, absolutely.
Great running back, from what they said. So, they got to get it together though, because win or lose, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yep.
Hopefully, they'll have some momentum beating St. Thomas Aquinas, and then go from there. Then they got Newark, St. Paul. You got Mogador. Not an easy road for them. Either way they go. South Range, they've been on top pretty much all year long.
Yeah, I think they're looking at they'll probably be the 1 seed. So they'll get. I think this is the last year in their stadium, so they'll get to host a playoff game in the last game in the stadium. So you can't write a better script than that. So
that is incredible.
Yeah, so
good for them. Hopefully they'll be able to make the most of that. Mooney will take care of business if they can against Fitch, and then we'll see where they advance. Harding is the other team. We talked about Howland. Harding likely in no matter what they do. But a lot riding on them for this. A lot of momentum. Week 10.
I mean, it's a crosstown rival at this point now. So and no one's playing better at this point than Howland. I think on a little bit of a run. So this is going to be. I mean, this is huge. That's one that I might make my way to on Friday night.
I'm kind of deciding there, or probably Stutters Lakeview again. I don't know.
Yeah, the tribe's on though, so I got to fight that.
Hopefully they'll keep it going.
Yep.
Things are going really good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens. What's going on at Kelly's Bar this weekend?
Well, we have our first Halloween party. It starts at 8. We have a DJ. We'll have a bunch of food
Friday
out.
night?
Saturday night.
Oh.
Friday
That
we'll have.
disqualifies me.
Friday we'll have the tribe game on. I know. I did want to ask you: is Happy Valley actually happy, or do you have a different opinion of it now at this point?
Oh, it was miserable Valley.
I can imagine, but
they lost.
Listen, I've been getting it for 5 weeks now at Notre Dame. We almost lost to the bye last week. It was the bye -2, and we covered. Yeah, but no, we.
Sad Valley.
This week we're doing.
College.
We're doing the barbecue. I'm excited that we have Bob Hannon on a little bit because now I'm a big YSU guy. We get to watch the games here, so I'm excited. It's homecoming for them, so it should be a good weekend for the whole area. I think the weather's crappy today and tomorrow. I think it kind of breaks.
Saturday's gonna be
it breaks a little bit for the weekend, so it should be a good weekend.
State has Northwestern at home.
Yep.
YSU's at home.
Can't sleep on Northwestern, man. They are playing. They are playing good.
They lost to Western Michigan, I believe, to start the season out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It
We'll
is what
see.
it is.
Yep.
Oh well, that's why we play the games though,
Yep.
and we have parties at the bar here to celebrate. So.
Yep.
All right, we'll be back with a good show tonight from Kelly's Bar with Yards After Contact. Right after this. Welcome back to Kelly's Bar, Mahoney Avenue in Youngstown, Ohio. This is Yards After Contact, and a special guest I have with me. Week 10 of the season. I guess it's better late than never. Finally got him here. Bob Hannon. You might remember him as the sports director at WYTV, Channel 33. You might remember him or know him as the voice of the Penguins.
Remember, I still do it.
As the voice of the YSU Penguins on Saturday afternoons on the radio. Or you just might remember him as somebody you saw before and recognize him. I don't know who he is though, but Bob Hannon, or the director of the Mahoning United Way.
United Way of Mahoning Valley.
Mahoning Valley United Way. Bob, welcome to the show.
Gary, it's good to be here. Even though we philosophically disagree on just about everything in sports, it's good to come and be with you. Always good to see you. We used to have you on the show on my YTV, and
that's been years ago.
It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
10 years ago, maybe, or longer. I don't even know.
I've been to United Way 8, so we're going on 10 years.
Fun times.
It was a good time.
Not quite the setup you're used to in your studio.
Hey, it's all good, Gary.
It's all good. It's all good. Sports here. So what have you been doing with yourself? Give us an update since you left WYTV.
Yep.
What happened to Bob Hannon?
8 years now I've been at United Way. We're doing some good work, raising money for kids in the Valley, especially kids that face tough barriers. We got a great staff. I think we're doing a lot of good in the Valley. Our job is really as a fundraiser. Most of the money we raise are people giving through payroll deduction, a couple dollars a week. We raise about $3 million a year, and the money all stays here, Gary. We're doing, I think, a really good job impacting people that that really need help in our valley.
Directly does the money kind of programs does it go to?
A lot of it goes to kids. We focus on children K to 6th grade, after-school programs, enrichment, food, clothing, shelter, basic needs. So with our after-school program, we take on kids that need academic help. We take them to places like YSU football games. We'll take them to the Old Wow Museum. So the money stays here, and it really focuses on children. A lot of education. We also fund several agencies like Salvation Army, Help Hotline, Sojourner House. So that's what we do.
So fundraising is a big part of it. Has the job that you've done enhanced the kitty since you've been there a lot?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Our revenue's gone up. So I think part of the reason in hiring me is that they felt people knew me.
Okay.
They would let me in. It's easier going with a microphone than asking for a check, okay? But yeah, I think we've done well. It's been tough, Gary. When I began in 2008, economy went in the tank.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm way in over my head. We had a rough year, but every year since then, our campaign's gone up, and we've been able to generate more revenue.
So you know all the people to go see and all the people
And not to go see.
important people.
You know, this community steps up. This community likes to help its neighbors, especially if you have a good product. We've got a good story. If you come and look at our work, and you've been there, and see the kids we're helping, people want to get involved.
Yeah. Just been involved recently with a couple of photo shoots.
Yeah, so most of the major companies and the corporate partners and the key people in town support United Ways. That's a great thing.
And obviously guys like Cavelli and people like that, just from knowing that they're involved, or people
Sam,
step up in there.
Oh, yeah.
Moransky,
Ed Moransky, Sam Cavelli, Denise DeBartolo York, General Motors Lordstown, UAW workers. Our largest donor is GM. Without GM, United Way couldn't do the work it does.
Wow, fantastic. Let's switch gears and talk about sports, Bob. You've been out of sports broadcasting in it, but I'm still your big fan. Do you follow high school football still much? What's it look like
Well,
for your?
obviously not like I used to every
Okay.
Friday night, but I do keep tabs. I go to some games.
Do you miss that stuff? The Friday night shows
Great
and,
question.
and
My
the
first
student athletes of the week, the longest running, still going show.
first year I missed
Did
it.
you help create that?
No, it was right before me.
Okay.
And then we sort of tried to go with Student Athlete of the Week, then Student Athlete of the Year, and make the program more than what it is. Did I miss it? That's a great question. First year I missed it a lot. You know, I don't miss it very much anymore.
Forgot that you were in sports at this point.
You know, you move on. You do other things, Gary, and that's what I'm doing now.
Well, let's talk about your background before you're from Newcastle, right?
Yep.
Because you're a Steeler fan. Well, at least you're a Steeler fan from Pennsylvania. That's,
Right.
That's a good thing. Not like these Ohio fans that are
We'll
Steeler
start.
fans.
Excuse me, Gary.
Newcastle graduate?
Newcastle High School graduate, went to Slippery Rock University. So you give me a pass being a Steeler fan because I'm from Newcastle.
Yes.
So I've been a Steeler fan since Bradshaw.
Yes.
Franco Harris, the Steel Curtain, Joe Green.
You should be proud.
Yeah, and a great franchise. So think about the Pittsburgh-Cleveland rivalry. You can't be a Steeler and Browns fan. You can be a Indians-Pirates fan, different divisions, different leagues. This community split. I know you struggle with the fact that there's Ohio people that
There's
root
a
for
border
Pittsburgh.
there. Yes.
Boy, it is, Gary.
I'm a Buckeye. Proud to be a Buckeye. I'm a Brown. We're
So-
in Ohio. If I
so-
like Pittsburgh,
so-
I'd move there. The only thing, no really
If you were
bothers me.
from- if you were from PA.
Here's what bothers me.
Okay.
When I got to be forced to watch Steelers on my TV when I live in Ohio. Other than that, I could care less about you Steeler fan. That's the thing that bothers
Well,
me.
sometimes it's out of their
You
control.
know, if you don't have direct TV or anything, but I don't care if I was. I'm in Ohio. I want to watch the Browns. That's the only real problem. Otherwise, go.
But
be
if
a
the
front
Browns
runner.
are
Go be a
awful
front runner. I
late
don't
in the
care.
season, and
but I
Pittsburgh's in
still
a
wanna
big
watch my
game,
team.
well, there's other people in the market that want to watch
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
I know, but if it was our team and there were only other, it would be Browns.
We're never going to agree on
I know,
this one.
I agree.
But yeah, Newcastle guy. I lived
How'd
there a
you
long
end
time.
up at YTV then? I guess.
You know, Gary, I was working radio in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But let me go back. My first radio job was at WKST in Newcastle. I did sports talk. I did play-by-play. I was a DJ. I read obits. People died. I read their names on the air. Steve Meckling hired me.
Yes.
Steve Meckling was the sports director at Channel 21. Okay. One day I'm working radio in Atlantic City. I did sports. I sold advertising. Steve calls me. Says, "Hey, Bob, I know you want to get in TV." I said, "Yeah." So there's an opening on the weekends at Channel 33. Why don't you give him a call? I called Tom Mox, the news director. He said, "Can you be here tomorrow morning?" It's Friday at 2:30. I get in the car. I drive till midnight. I go interview. Sunday he offers me the job, and October of 1987.
Wow.
I become weekend anchor for a month.
And you're how old?
I was 26. And then a month later, he named me sports director. So in the early, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, Gary. I didn't know what I was doing. So, but in January of '88, I became sports director. And then in 1989, I became the voice of Youngstown State football, and I stayed there 20 years.
My goodness.
So without Steve Mecklin calling me and going in for the interview, and I asked Tom Mock, why'd you hire me? He goes, because you ad-libbed your entire audition, which told me you knew sports. And I wanted someone who loved sports. And so, Gary, I never thought I'd be here this long. My goal actually was to get to Pittsburgh. I interviewed in Pittsburgh, had a couple opportunities, but that was in the 90s, and I didn't want to give up Youngstown State. I was part of a program that was winning national championships every year. And Gary, my favorite part of broadcasting is play-by-play.
Yeah.
So I absolutely didn't want to give up the play-by-play, and now I'm glad I stayed here because I love Youngstown.
And you worked with Jim Tressel.
Yep,
Back then.
Tressel for.
And now you work with Jim Tressel.
Yeah, I worked with Tressel for about 12 years. And then I'll say about Tressel. When he went to Ohio State, he didn't forget. When I needed an interview or I covered the national championship game, he always stepped up for me and still does help me at Youngstown State.
All the time. You got the good interviews. You got
Yeah,
everything.
well, let me tell you this one. They're going to the national championship in 2002 season, 2003 bowl game.
Yeah.
So I tell my news director, we have to go. We got to be there all week. He goes, where are you going to get the money? It's going to cost us $4,000 or $5,000. You got to rent a live truck. I said, I'll do a show. We'll make $10,000, and I'll get Jim Tressel. Done. I didn't even ask Tressel yet. So Gary, I called Tressel right after he beats Michigan 14-9. I said, can we do this? He said, yeah, I'll give you a one-on-one. But we're not doing it in my office because all these other guys are going, we'll do it at my house. 3
That's
days,
even better.
3 days before Christmas, I don't have the interview. Now I'm starting to sweat. Calls me, says, come to the house Christmas Eve. Photographer Jim Bowser got in the car with me. We Christmas Eve day, spent 2 hours with Tressel, got the one-on-one interview, and came back, and we did the hour special. We made about $9,000. The trip cost $4,000. We made $5,000. But he never has let me down. Jim Tressel has never let me down.
What's your best Jim Tressel story at Ohio State? OSU.
We're getting ready to play Citadel in the playoffs.
Okay.
1992. They're number one in the country.
That's the year we did not win.
Did not win the championship. He says, we're going to go for an hour and a half. Practice on a Friday. Light. The first 15 minutes of practice, flawless. I don't think the ball touched the ground. He said, we're done. We can't do better. We did no special teams. We did no defense. We got in the bus, went back to the hotel and relaxed. I'm glad I didn't go for a walk. I'd have missed the bus. We beat them. We slaughtered them the next day on their field, number one in the country. He just had a knack and a feel for what was right. You know, there are a lot of great Jim Tressel stories. You know, we used to do a coach's show at McDonald's and in the corner, sort of hidden. Never missed a coach's show. Never missed an appearance. I'll tell you one other good one. Newcastle High School legendary coach Lindy Lauro.
Okay.
He retires. Joe Paterno's supposed to be the guest speaker. Now in Newcastle at that time, Joe Paterno,
Big time.
big time. He gets fogged in at Penn State. Can't make the trip. They call me because I'm the MC. Can you get Tressel? It's 2:00 Sunday afternoon.
And the banquets win?
That night, 2,000 people coming for Joe Paterno. Tressel said, "Oh, they aren't gonna be real happy. It's me."
He's still at Youngstown.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're good. We
Yeah,
just
okay.
so he says, I have to go to the funeral home. I'll meet you there late. He comes in, taking some notes. He gets up there and said, well, they asked me to do this. And then they said they got Joe. And then they said, we don't need you. And then when I made a great comeback against Marshall, even though that we lost, they said, oh, come on over. We'll help you out. So that's why I'm here. And he got up there, and he knocked it out of the park. And many of my friends said, we're going to start being Youngstown State fans. Jim Tressel's the best speaker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's outstanding.
His acceptance speech.
Yeah.
Great.
And how
At Ohio
about
State.
and how about when he was on the basketball
Yeah,
court?
300.
So many days, he pretty much said, we're going to be Michigan. And you know Michigan was thinking, we just beat you like 15 out of 18. But he had, and he
10-2-1.
and he knew.
Yeah.
At Youngstown, you know what the most important game was doing with Youngstown? Akron.
It used to be the Golden Blue game,
Yeah,
Akron, Kent.
because it's a geographic rival, which we don't have now. That's another story.
Yeah.
So at Ohio State, he got it. I got to beat Michigan. So I told people, Gary, and once in a while I'm right, whether you think so or not, that whenever he leaves Ohio State, he'll beat Michigan more than they beat him. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
And he did.
He did.
He beat him a few times.
He did pretty well.
He's the greatest coach in the history of Ohio State
I can't argue that point.
to this point.
Unfortunately, he's not there now, and Urban is. Are you an
Yeah.
Urban fan?
I'm not a. I have a daughter who goes to school at Ohio State. Okay, so I'm not a not Urban fan. I'm sort of middle of the road. I think he's really good. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Ohio State fans think. He's good. He's not better than Tressel. He's as good as Tressel. But at the end of the day, let's compare the records, and then we can say who's better. Urban Meyer's a great coach, but people, he's a rock star. He's this and that. Well, Tressel didn't have that style. It's going to sound bad. Urban Meyer got sick. He got real healthy when the Ohio State job opened.
I can say one thing. The best comparison of the two guys, they both, and trust me on this, have a reverence for Ohio State. Both
Oh,
of them.
no question.
Both of them.
Right.
And extremely
Yep.
deep. And I was very surprised Urban had that as
Right.
well.
Well,
He's huge Ohio
He's an
State.
Ohio guy.
He's an Ohio guy, Ashtabula guy.
Ashtabula, he's from here.
He loves Ohio State.
Right.
Jim Tressel loved Ohio State.
And they also, another thing I think, tremendous.